What is your definition of masculinity?
Being a man.
Shape that males want to be associated with. Basically, they seem themselves like, if they are males, they should be like this, which is bullshit again. There isn't any kind of shape or form. You could be a male, really. You can be whatever you want, really.
I don't think I have a definition of masculinity. I never thought about it. I don't know.
Okay.
I guess.
I think masculinity is a concept that changes according to everyone, because we can't strictly say like this is masculine or this is feminine. I think it depends on how people feel about it.
Manly.
I think masculinity means to have acting like or wear clothes like masculine person.
Toxicity.
Well, that's an interesting question. I've never really thought about it like that before. I'm really not sure. Masculinity is basically like the male image that, it's the definition of the male image, I would say.
What do you think toxic masculinity is?
It's the sensation of woman being oppressed by masculinity and masculinity being stronger than femininity. It's basically like that, yeah.
Masculinity is, I think, what society thinks about masculinity.
I think that when this definition becomes fit in a certain stereotype, then that means how should I say it, when a certain stereotype is put for that definition, that makes the masculinity toxic, because it has to put people in a certain box.
Masculinity rephrased to make it seem as if masculinity within itself is not toxic. It is.
Bad manner manly.
About it, I think toxic masculinity is a set of rules that were set by the society for men, which are not real in my opinion. For example, men have to be tough, men shouldn't cry. I think that's what toxic masculinity is, because it brings a lot more other bad stuff with it, because people want to be fit in that specific role, so they don't feel like they're out of their identity, when in reality it doesn't really depend on.
I think that's what a man does, negative things, when a man does negative things.
When men try too hard to fit into the definitions of the masculinity of the society that's set.
Why do you think there is an issue like this? Do you think this is an issue because of the norms that society set for us?
Obviously, women feel a lot more pressure because of their appearances due to society's norms. However, I think there's a lot of pressure on men to look a certain way as well, and I think because of these certain stereotypes and ideal criteria that men need to fill, that they feel the need to fill, they become really depressed, and they feel oppressed in a certain way in their own minds. They have less pressure on themselves because of the society.
Probably. Just society just sucks. Yes.
I think toxic masculinity is an issue because we all live in the same society, especially with social media. Everyone interacts with each other so much easier now, and I think it's very hard to get out of society's norms without being judged. So I think people are afraid of being judged, but people also love judging, so that's why I think that's an issue.
Yeah, it's definitely a product of society. This shouldn't be existent in the first place. It's society has created a trap for both men and women. Men repress their emotions and try to seem more powerful while they're struggling, and oppress women at the same time while doing it.
How do the pressures of physical appearances play out with men?
You have to look strong and aggressive.
The physical appearance is important for men as well. The society puts a lot more importance in how women look, in my opinion. That's why it's more of an issue, but I think it's very important for men as well, because there's some standards and socially constructed things for men. I think that's also one of the causes for depression in men.
Yeah, society just sets so much rules for both men and women. Just men are expected to be have super great hair, beard, and super masculine, and yeah, they're just expected to be physically big.
Men have to be strong, so they have to look strong.
Men are basically taught to repress their emotions, and no matter what happens, you have to be strong, you have to stand still, you can't cry, which is just a phrase I hate, absolutely hate. It's just that state of mind that they have to be repressed, and in terms of emotions, of course, while women have to be more emotional. That's a normal thing that you're supposed to do. You're supposed to reflect your emotions, you're supposed to express them. But men are taught to just repress them and sit normally, like nothing's happening. this leads to mental illness, suicide, and abuse, basically.
How do we treat mental illness differently in women than men?
We treat women to overcome all difficulties. We make men seem strong, but actually women overcome all of the emotional hardships and also material hardships. Men come across, for example, the socioeconomical thing that you mentioned. When men come across material hardships, they don't know how to deal with it. They reflect that on alcoholism and stuff like that. Although women go through the same thing, the poverty rate for women is actually a lot higher than it is for men. White men especially do not know any hardships within their life, so once they go down that pit, they don't know any other answer than suicide. I'm sorry, I do pity them, but you know.
Well, I think I don't believe that there should be a difference in treatment between men and women when it comes to mental illnesses, but it's true that because of society, men are taken less seriously when they have depression because they were always thought to oppress their emotions in a certain way, so they're usually disregarded, and I think this all the time this worsens the situation when it comes to men.
I don't think they're treated differently.
I think women and men have we treat mental illnesses differently in women and men in a certain way because not the actual concept of mental illness, but what the mental illness is. So basically, for example, eating disorders are more common for women. So when a man gets an eating disorder, they're not taken as seriously as when a woman would, which is completely false. So those kind of constructs play out on how different mental illnesses affect both sexes.
I don't think we should, but I think men are locked up more than women. Women are treated probably softer than men.
I think people just act like men doesn't get depression. They're portrayed as an emotional if they're to be masculine, and when they get depression, they're just oh no, you're just over exaggerating. Yeah, I think.
How is toxic masculinity shown in mainstream advertisements in media?
It's when you look any advertisement, any billboards, you'll see a man shirtless that has great abs. That is just role model for many teenage boys, I guess.
I think the answer you're looking for is underwear ads, hyper-masculine, yes, people and the hunky bulbs and I don't know. And we all know that there's a history of sex marketing as well. In the past it was maybe showing women on the ground and men chewing them, but currently it still exists in high-end brands, for example, there are scenes of gang rape and coercion, and those are seen as just regular advertisement. They don't strike as a sexism because they're hidden under the layer of pornographication of our world. Yes, anyway, these are all signs of masculinity, which is inherently toxic.
When you look at most advertisement, well, it's changing now, but man is seen as a strong figure compared to women.
When we usually look at male-oriented targeted products, usually razor commercials and stuff, men are really buff and they are clean cut, shaved and stuff. So all of these stereotypes contribute to the oppression that men feel to look a certain way.
So strong, macho.
I think toxic masculinity is shown a lot in media. For example, a lot of commercials use men as objects as well, which these objects have the set standards set by society. And in advertisements and media, men are shown as tough guys that can do anything, etc. So that's a problem.
Especially in more male-oriented products like razors or cologne and that stuff like that. Male, it's the optimal male look. It's not the optimal male look, but it's advertised as such, which is big, big, strong, and stuff like that, basically, and it sucks, to be honest.
For me, healthy masculinity looks like showing emotions, treating people with kindness and compassion. So can you tell us what healthy masculinity looks like for you?
I don't know, like me.
I think healthy masculinity is different for everyone because everyone should be able to express themselves however they feel. I think that's what healthy masculinity is. So basically, if you feel comfortable in yourself, if you want to act the way you do, then that's healthy.
Looks like your father.
Well, I think that healthy masculinity is if you feel comfortable in your skin, if you feel that you fit your own definition of masculine, that means you're in the terms of healthy masculinity because it's different for everyone. There should not be one set definition of what masculinity is.
Healthy masculinity is just loving yourself, I guess. Just body positivity.
I don't really associate myself with the term masculinity, to be honest. Masculinity is kind of toxic in itself. But I don't think there's anything wrong with being a male. It's not something you can control, really. But it's like the notion of masculinity is just toxic in itself. It's like a trap males have created for themselves.
Do you have a role model or celebrity that perpetuates healthy masculinity?
A very famous, like he died right now, but like Zeki Müren was a very famous singer in Turkey. He was like the first openly transgender person that was accepted by the community in Turkey, which is usually not the case. So I really admired him, and like I kind of saw him as a role model. I still do.
Oh, James Aspie, I think. He's a vegan activist. He's just, I don't know, I portray him very healthy because he eats like just whole foods and I don't know, man.
I do not. I don't have any role models, basically.
I think Jaden Smith is one of the celebrities that really show healthy masculinity because he doesn't have a fragile masculinity. He's not afraid to like wear skirts or dresses and get out of society's conceptions on masculinity.
What is the difference between being in Turkey versus Canada?
Oh boy! That's gonna take a long time to explain. In Turkey, you have to be like this aloof figure that doesn't show any emotion, is straight no matter what. You have to be like, you have to see yourself as a woman to be socially accepted to an extent. I mean, this is like, you know, the geopolitical stuff in Turkey, like how religious and European styles clash. It's not all of Turkey is like this, but it's highly advertised as such. But in Canada, it's still not perfect, of course. There's a lot of issues in Canada still, but it's a little bit better. Like people are more socially accepting of different LGBTQ alignments and such. So this kind of knocks down the toxic masculinity a bit, since these are more socially accepted. While in Turkey, like gay parades have been protested against and such, which is like stupid.
Real men in Turkey, it's just they're like, they need to be like, I don't know how it goes in Canada, but in Turkey, I guess people are just like, they have to be thick, they have to have beard, and if they don't, they're just like a boy, even if they're just like 30 years old. They are expected to be extremely emotional. If you see them cry, they're just like, oh, you're a girl, you're not a man.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck you. How it goes in Canada, yeah, I'm not really associated with men. I've never had a boyfriend. Just to put
I think in Turkey and Canada, there's a difference between being a real man. So, because in Turkey, men are under a lot more pressure due to traditions and stuff, especially in some less developed regions, to be like a father figure and like oppress people, etc. Like in Canada, I don't think that's as common. In Canada, I think it's more towards the media rather than real life. So yeah.
In Canada, there is no man. There are human.
Yes.
Because men and women are equal. But in Turkey, men are strong, rude, mostly, and macho.
Okay, thank you.
Being a man in Turkey and being a man in Canada, I think is that the men are more free in Canada more than Turkey, because in some being a person, for example, believing in something, a religion, they have to mostly believe in one religion or act like a person. Like basically, Canadian men are freer than Turkish men, so that's why being a Turkish man is tough.
I don't know what a real man is defined as in Canada, and I don't care what a real man is defined as in Turkey, although I can probably explain what it's like in Turkey. You know, you gotta provide for your family, you gotta be strong, I don't know. I think the main difference is Canada puts more importance on looking good as well to be considered a man, but that's not really the case in Turkey, although, you know, getting more women is part of it, which might inherently relate to physical appearance, I don't know.
Being a real man in Turkey, I think, is a bad thing, because you are supposed to treat women badly. You have to be macho all the time, whereas in Canada, it's just the opposite.
Okay, thank you.